This is how I get rid of arm pump when I'm starting to deal with it while I'm out on the track. If you don't know me, I'm Logan Lesser, a national motocross racer, having won over 15 state championships and an amateur national championship. I'm an extreme sports athlete and ran a marketing agency for over 4 years, growing it to $30,000 a month. And while doing so, was able to travel the world living in Cape Town, South Africa, part-time throughout the past few years. And I've spent nearly $50,000 on mentors, coaches, courses, and education, learning from the best of the best in business, fitness, mindset, racing, and so on. Now I'm sharing what I've learned and growing my community, the Champion Protocol, linked in the description below. By the way, if you want to apply to train with me one-on-one online, the link to that is in the description below this video, so feel free to check that out. But first off, arm pump freaking sucks. Like, it really does. And I am making this video right now because I dealt with it a little bit in that moto, and it's mainly because this past weekend, if you follow me on Instagram, you probably saw it, but I went to the lake and like was wakeboarding and stuff, and I hadn't done that in so long, but literally like holding on to the rope or whatever, and I did it a lot. Like, I did a lot of wakeboarding and kneeboarding, so I was hanging onto that rope a lot over the weekend. Like, it pulled on my arms more than my arms has really felt in a long time or something, because my arms have been like so sore ever since then, and they still are today, like especially in my bicep and stuff. So I even knew coming into today, I was like, I'm probably gonna deal with some arm pump. So basically I did feel it a little bit while I was out there, but this is kind of what I do whenever I start to feel it while I'm out on the track. And I actually had to do this a few years ago at Three Palms in down in Texas, I think. I haven't been there in a while, so I'm pretty sure it's in Texas though. And it was at a Loretta Lynn regional, and I almost didn't qualify because of arm pump, but I was able to kind of implement this stuff, and it helped me a lot. So basically, while you're out on the track, like obviously there's a lot of things that lead to arm pump and things you can do to reduce it or eliminate it when it comes to, you know, fitness, nutrition, all that type of stuff. But in this video, I'm just gonna mainly touch on while you're on the track, because at that point, I mean, you can't really do anything in terms of that other stuff in order to fix it. So like in the moment, so a few things is, first off, like really start breathing through the nose. Like, you need to be breathing a lot more, because sometimes you kind of hold your breath while you're out there and you don't even notice it. So that can help you or that'll obviously reduce the oxygen going through your body and everything, and a bunch of sciencey stuff regarding that. But I do know you need to breathe more. But the big things is really you're just super tight and tense, and this is what happened at Three Palms for me. Is I was so tight in my upper body, and I was hanging on so tight, mainly because of nerves and everything, at least at that race and stuff. But sometimes, like, you'll just accidentally, even me sometimes, like out in that moto, I'll just find myself hanging on a little too tight up on my upper body. And what's interesting is that your upper body should actually be extremely loose when you're on the bike, because all of your, like, you should be locked into the bike and squeezing it with your feet, and not even your legs and your knees. Like, a lot of trainers and people would say that in the past, but it's actually your feet that are locked in, because if you're squeezing with your legs, you actually don't have that much control with your legs. What you have control of, or how you have control of the bike, is with your feet. And then obviously your legs being strong, like, that's all a part of it. I'm not saying your legs don't have control. I'm saying if you only squeeze with your knees, that's not actually, you don't have that much control of the bike. It's with your feet that you have like some serious control. So the actual technique you want, like with your lower body and your feet, is you want your toes pointed in like this, really locked into the bike, and then you want to be standing on the ball of your foot. So like if this is the foot peg, this is your toe, you want to be like right here. And you want this angle too. Like, you don't necessarily want to be flat, you want to be this angle, because you also want your knees behind the foot pegs pretty much all the time when you're standing. And what that does is it basically just, it puts your weight in the right places and like balances your weight correctly, but it also drives all of your weight and all of the force into your feet. And you'll feel it when you're out there. Like, you'll feel a lot more weight and stuff on your feet, but when you feel that, it'll actually feel really good, because you'll have a lot more control. Like, immediately you'll see like, oh wow, like I have a lot more control of the bike, I can really like squeeze it with my feet and everything. But when you do that also, it makes it so that you're not having to hold on so tight with your upper body and your arms, which that's obviously what leads to arm pump big time, is when you're hanging on so freaking tight. Like, I remember in a podcast or something with Jet Lawrence, he was literally talking about how he barely hangs on with his upper body and his arms. Like, he's barely hanging on. I think I even heard him say something like, he could be going through a rough section and could practically take his arm off of the handlebar because he's not even hanging on that tight with his arms, because he's squeezing so hard with his feet and his legs, and that's where he's really controlling the bike. Like even when you're watching Jet, like he looks so fluid and just flowing and stuff, and it's because his upper body is loose and everything, and he's just able to move the bike and really flow with it, because his feet and his legs are doing the majority of the work. So anyway, going back to the arm pump thing, when you start to feel it out on the track, really remind yourself like, okay, loosen up the upper body and really make sure you get into that correct form with your lower body. And immediately, like when you get into that correct form, you're automatically going to start to feel where you're controlling the bike more with your lower body, allowing your upper body to really loosen up. And then another thing is really, you don't want to have your arms extended like this really ever, because when you're doing that, like for example, if you're going down on a straightaway, or for example, I'm at Thunder Valley and there's a long ass uphill, if you're going up that uphill and you're like leaning way back with your arms straight like this, you're literally straining your forearms so freaking bad, and that's what's going to lead to major arm pump. Whereas what you want to do is when you're in that correct position, like I mentioned before, then it's going to allow your upper body to be more loose, and then you'll want your head more close to or over the handlebars, and your arms pretty much always at an angle, not necessarily this much. Like when you're going down a straightaway or something, or going through rollers, it'll be more straight, but not completely straight. It'll still have this curve right here, this angle, you know. So either like 90 degrees with your head over, or like this at like the max, but you never want to be like this. And I will say, to be able to do that and to keep yourself from going like this, that's core strength. So you really want to work on your core and everything. But that's really the biggest things, to be honest. Like when I think back to 3POMs and what I started focusing on while I was out on the track during one of my motos, because I like got off to, I think I got the whole shot, and then I got passed immediately. I can't remember who it was, but I got passed immediately like in the second corner, and then I was in second, and then literally I stayed in second for the rest of the moto. And in the first few motos at that race, I was getting really good starts like the whole weekend. Like I was getting the whole shot almost every time, and then I would literally just fall back to and just get passed left and right throughout the race because my arms would pump up so bad. So during that particular race, I started up in second, and instead of like just pushing and fighting and trying to stay up there, I actually instead didn't even really think about speed or anything like that. I literally just focused 100% on my technique and my form, and I focused on keeping my upper body as loose as I could. And literally, since I was in the right technique and the best form, I was actually much smoother on the track, and I was going way faster, even though I wasn't even trying to, because I was just riding way better. But I also actually ended up gapping everybody behind me throughout the race and stayed in second and finished in second, because I was riding so well, and I didn't end up falling back because of my arms pumping up. Like I actually remember I did feel my arms start to pump up a little bit, but when that happened, I literally just doubled down and focused even more on my technique and my legs and loosening my upper body as much as possible. So that's the big thing. So basically, in summary with this, when you're having arm pump out on the track, it really comes down to turning or reverting back to the basics of the basic technique and the basic form to be standing in, and keeping that upper body loose, and really breathing a lot through the nose and stuff like that. So pretty simple things, but you will not believe the difference that it'll make. So anyway, hopefully that was helpful. Once again, if you want to train with me or apply to train with me one-on-one online, the link to that's in the description below. Feel free to subscribe for more stuff like this, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.